This is your one and only FireSpark81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Freeform Friday, where we play some random video game, and today's game is called The Ascent. The Ascent is not the Cyberpunk game we had hoped for, nor is it the one we asked for, but it is definitely the one that we needed. Let's get to it. The Ascent is one of the most fun and most beautiful games I have played this year. If you like twin stick shooters, you like looters, you like RPGs, you're going to absolutely adore this game and you should buy it. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode. And I'm just joking. I'm joking. Let's get into some details, starting with the environment. There is so much detail on this map. The map is huge to begin with. It's absolutely freaking massive. It's extremely easy to get lost in because it's just sprawling and there's multiple levels and little nooks and crannies everywhere, and every single place you look has large amounts of detail. Even if it's just looking into the background, you could go to some little back alley somewhere and there might be a little box there to pop and there may be some coinage in there or something other than that, and that be about it. But then the building next to it has a window. In that window, you see people, you see things happening. You look to the background, there is a massive structure back there with just cars flying around, signs moving around, just so much detail everywhere you look. I can't remember the last time I've been in a game on a map that feels more alive than this one. Don't even get me started with the interactions of just everything on the map. There is so much stuff that you can just interact with, in the sense like it's got physics. You can kick around stuff. You shoot somebody and they fall to the ground. Their corpse doesn't instantly disappear like many other games. It sits there in ragdoll mode and you can run through it and kick it out of the way. There's tons of NPCs all over the place, and as you run through them, you shove them out of the way, and sometimes they'll say things to you. If you're in an area where you can have your gun out, so not one of the main city hub areas, and you have your gun out and you start shooting, people run and scream and cower and do different things. Not all the same thing, different things. Some will stand there and just cower in place and cover their head. Others will run off the screen. Some are dumb enough to run right in front of your gunfire and die, and you'll blow a limb off and they'll just go flailing with the ragdoll physics. The chunk of the map that you start in, there's a section where there's like some chairs and some machinery and stuff like that. And I'm walking around and I bump into one of the chairs and it moved. Now, there is a lot of static stuff on the map, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of static things, and the more time you spend in the game, you'll start to notice those static things. Like there's some cars that I was shooting at yesterday that didn't blow up like other cars and were just there and just part of the map. And I will admit that does break immersion a little bit, but there's so much immersion in this that it just kind of taps on the glass of the fourth wall. It doesn't fully break it. It maybe puts a little crack in it, just taps on it a little bit, because there's just so much attention to detail and so much interaction on the map that it's really hard to just break that fourth wall permanently. And the crazy thing is that this game was designed and made by 12 people. I can't believe what 12 people were capable of doing here. I don't even know how long the game was in development, and I don't care. It could have been decades. What you need to understand is 12 people pulled off an absolute masterwork of eye candy with this game. One last thing I want to touch on in the visual department is the camera work. Now, the camera work isn't always fantastic when it comes to gameplay. There are times where the camera will shift and it will kind of put you at a bit of a disadvantage. But honestly, that's kind of part of the fun of it, because it kind of makes it more challenging, and I like challenging. I could see how it would annoy some people, but I've never played a game like this before that moves the camera around like this game does to just create these awe-inspiring moments that you just don't see anywhere else. Pretty much every looter shooter type game that I've played like this, the isometric style, the camera is just fixed. I don't even know if you could call this isometric because the camera's not fixed at that top-down slight angle. it moves around and follows you and rotates, and you'll be running across a bridge and the camera will just pan around to give you this beautiful view of the backdrop of some giant building with cars and stuff flying around it and signs. And it just creates these moments that draw you into the world, which is crazy because this is a twin stick looter shooter. Like, that's what it's about. It's about going around shooting things and getting loot, selling loot, upgrading your character, speccing in stats, leveling up, all that good stuff that we love in RPG looter shooters. But instead of just having that and the devs saying, all right, good is good, let's do it, they took the time to make these moments, to do this camera work, which just makes this game something like no other. Let's talk about the sound. So not only is it visually appealing, it is also auditory appealing as well. They absolutely nailed the sound. The guns all sound different. They have a nice, hard, crunchy sound to them that just hits well. It has different sound modes, so whether you're playing with headphones, whether you're playing on a home theater system or just two tiny little speakers, you can go into the options menu and set that to maximize your sound experience. Now, I'm playing on surround sound speakers, so I have mine set for the home theater experience. And let me tell you what, it is an absolute freaking delight. I streamed this for about 6-ish hours with no music on, so all I heard was just the ambient sound and the sounds of the guns and all of that stuff. And that alone was absolutely fantastic and enough to just make me go, wow. When you turn the music on and you actually play with the music, it's 10 times better. It just gets better. They took just as much time on their sound work as they did with their map work, their background work, all of that stuff. You can see 100% this was a passion project and they put a ton of effort into it. Let's talk about the gameplay and the looting and shooting, because I'm sure you want to know about that. Yes, it is absolutely freaking fantastic. It is a ton of fun. The AI, while not the most advanced in the world, it is really good AI. They will come in behind you and strafe you. Now, they did do things here that I noticed that aren't necessarily AI driven, as like the AI being smart, but things will spawn in behind you either right off screen or just at the edge of the screen, and they will come running in behind you if you are in behind cover, because this game, unlike pretty much any other isometric looter shooter twin stick shenanigans, actually has cover fire. You can duck behind cover and shoot up over top of cover, which is crazy. But anyway, so if you're behind cover for too long, things will come in behind you and the enemy in front of you will attempt to run around and get in behind you and shoot you from the side as well. They will also deploy other measures, everything from firing rockets at you that home to throwing grenades at you, all kinds of stuff. So it's good. It's challenging AI. That's 100% for sure. There are some times where I've seen the AI kind of glitch out and do some weird things, but I mean, that's common in video games, and we'll talk about that more when we get into the it's not perfect section. The initial character customization that you start with is rather limited. There's not a whole lot. They got a couple of options for your faces. They got a couple of options for your hair. You can choose whether you want to be male or female, skin tones, face tats, stuff like that. That's about it. It's nothing too crazy. The customization to start with as far as your character build is rather limited as well. You do not get a whole lot of options to try to be a specific type of class or something like that right from the get-go. You got about a good 3 hours-ish or so before you're going to have the funds to really buy any of the other tech that's out there, which is limited and apparently does unlock more over time. I haven't actually reached that part yet. All of the stuff that I've actually acquired, I've gotten through drops, which will happen. You can find stuff out and around the map, and NPCs that you shoot will drop things. So you will get a lot of different types of armor, weapons, mods, augments, all of that stuff to really customize your character to fit your type of playstyle for this style of game. More by playing it than actually just going to a shop and buying it, which is fine. But like I said, the press thing that they gave me when they gave me a key for the game said that stuff would unlock in the shops as you progress. So I'm pretty sure this is a situation where it's level based, and as you hit or quest based. So as you hit a specific point, either in the main story, which I've just been doing a bunch of side quests, or if you hit a specific level, that stuff will eventually open up for you. But I have seen a bunch of different abilities, and I've seen a bunch of different guns. I've actually acquired a bunch of different guns. You're seeing some of them in this footage, as well as some of the abilities. As far as stuff to do, there's a ton of stuff to do. There are tons and tons of little side quests that you can just pick up and go do. And the funny thing is it doesn't really like tell you, hey, this might be higher level than what you're capable of doing. I attempted to do a side quest last night, got halfway through it, and then it sent me to an area with guys that were way harder than anything I was capable of fighting, and I kept getting rocked. I kept trying to fight them and trying, and it just ended up being a situation where it was an area that I wasn't supposed to be in yet. So I kind of just said, okay, we'll go do another side quest. Doing these side quests, however, can be extremely lucrative when it comes to customizing your character and teching up and stuff like that, because you get things for doing them. You may not necessarily get it as a reward for doing said quest, but things that you are fighting in said area will drop things that will help you out and help you to further customize your character to fit your given playstyle, which is actually a really good thing, because that forces you to want to play the game and get out there and explore, instead of just saying, oh, well, I have a bunch of money, I'm just going to go to the shop and buy said thing. As far as what your character can have and can do, you can have 2 guns equipped at any given point in time. You can change them out whenever on the fly. But as far as like what you can swap between, you can have 2 guns. You can swap between them with the middle mouse button. Just roll it up or down and it will swap your weapon. You also get your tactical item. Think of this as like your gadget item. So this is grenades, little robot that runs around the map, picks things up for you, like health packs and stuff like that. That's your more or less your tactical slot. That's your gadget slot. Then you have your augments. These are your powers. These are your things that use what they refer to as energy, aka your mana. These are things like Falcon Punch that just smacks people in the face, knocks them across the map and disintegrates them. Blades that fly around you and create like a little shield that runs into enemies and chops them up and does damage to them if they get too close, if the melee enemies get too close. You can also make enemies explode when you kill them. So think of the augment slots as your powers. Then you have the modules. Modules give your characters boosts for their stats. So for example, the one that I found so far is a health module, just gives me more health. Not sure what else is out there module-wise, because I have not found them or seen them in shops. But as far as I can tell, these allow you to further customize your character and kind of fit them into a specific class. So for example, if you wanted a tank, you would equip 2 of these health modules, stuff like that. Then you have your armor. So for armor, you have head, torso, and legs. Now armor does armor things, of course. It protects you from the different types of damage, but it also can affect stats in different ways. You have 2 sets of overall stats, and one kind of leads into the other. So you have your main attributes, and the only thing that those really affect are your augments. So depending on what augment you have, the damage may increase, the duration may be longer, whatever will happen based on your specific attribute that it requires. Then you have the broken down stats that go into like how fast you can evade, because you can dodge, but that's on a cooldown. So the higher your evasion is, the more often you can dodge. Then you have other things like tactical sense, which allows your tactical item to recharge faster, because that recharge is based on damage dealt to enemies, and so on and so on. And the armor can affect one of those or the other, or both. It can affect your attribute, and it can also affect your specific skills. Armor also has color quality based on it as well, so it goes through different color tiers, which is standard in most games that are all about collecting loot. All right, I've talked it up enough. I think you get the idea. It's fun. I really enjoy it. Let's talk about some of the downsides because it's a game and no game is 100% perfect. First off, the menus are a little clunky. Overall, when you go in, you hit tab to go into your menu and to take a look at your character stats, all of that stuff. It's just clunky. It's kind of, you can't see some stats at the same time. So like it doesn't give you descriptions of things and you have to hit the D key to bring up details. And then when you do that, you'll lose part of what you're already seeing to begin with. So when you have a comparison up between two weapons and you hit the D key because you can't remember what specific symbol means, then you lose out on what the other weapons got going on and you have to swap back and forth, and it's just clunky. It's a clunky interface. It also is missing details that you would expect normally to just like highlight over something and immediately see a breakdown of or more tooltips or descriptions on what said thing is. It took me forever to figure out exactly what the attributes do. Now, in the codex, and it does have a pretty good codex, I'll give it that, it just gave a little description of what the attributes do, but not specifically for each one. And I wasn't sure if it was a situation where there was more to it and that was just a brief explanation or what. I didn't know, and it took me messing around with stuff, unequipping, re-equipping things, and a little bit of testing here and there to figure out, yeah, the only thing the attributes do is affect your augments. That's it. So it would have just been nice to be able to highlight over a specific attribute and get a tooltip that says this affects these style of augments. And then when you hit the D key to bring up more details, it changes some of what those attribute names are called to a further breakdown, and there's details, or there's no details on those, but there's numbers associated with them, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it was just mislabeling or what the situation was, but yeah, the interface could use some work and it could use a lot more details, a lot more tooltips. That's just something that we come to expect in games like this, is a lot of information so you can min-max, because that's what people enjoy doing in gear drop games, is min-maxing, and this game is just missing that. Is it a deal breaker? Nah, not even close. It's more like a, oh, this kind of sucks, I wish I had more detail, but oh well, type of thing. Of course, in a game like this, you're gonna start to notice relatively quickly reused models. Reused models are all over the place. But it's funny though, because of the detail that the world has and the depth of what the world is, you kind of just glaze over it, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't bother me as much in this game for some reason as it would bother me in other games. But it's definitely there. You will run into areas where there will just be 4 or 5 or more guys that are all just clones of each other running at you. Sometimes when you're wandering around the city, you will see exact replicas of people standing next to each other or walking. Like there was one part where I was walking down an alleyway in a rainy area, and there was 2 of the exact same guys holding the exact same umbrella walking one behind each other. So things like that, you're gonna notice that, but that's common practice in games. I don't know what to tell you. It's just common practice. It happens everywhere. But I wanted to point it out because it is technically a flaw. The AI is pretty dang good, but sometimes it gets a little derpy. There was one part where I was fighting a bunch of guys and there was a guy who was just stuck behind the stall. He couldn't do anything. He was kind of glitching back and forth doing this weird, like, I don't know, shaky thing. And I could not damage him and he could not attack me, and he was just completely glitched out. So you will see things like that once in a while. I've only run into that specific one time, but I've seen some AI do some other things like get stuck on things and stuff like that. So it does have its flaws. It's not a perfect game, but it is an absolute banger of a game. And if you enjoy shooters, twin stick games, you enjoy looting games like Diablo, Path of Exile, all of those style games, Torchlight, stuff like that, and you want a more sci-fi setting, you are absolutely going to adore this game. And I guarantee you will have fun. It's on sale right now. It just released, oh, by the way, you can play with friends. That's a thing. So if you are on Xbox, any of the Xboxes, so Series X, Series S, Xbox One, or Xbox One X, how many Xbox versions are there? Jesus, Microsoft. So if you're on any of those and you're on Windows 10 with Game Pass, because the game is on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can go play it right now for the cost of your Game Pass, basically free. But I mean, it's technically not free because you're paying. Anyway, you get the idea. You can play it right now on Game Pass on Windows 10, any of those Xboxes, and they are cross-platform. So if you are playing on the Microsoft Xbox app on Windows 10, you can play with your friends who are playing on Xbox. Now, it is also on Steam, but Steam is not cross-compatible with any of those other Windows or Xbox versions. Now, I did see an article where they said they want to work on that. They want to make that a thing, but it is not a thing right now. So if you get it on Steam because you want to play with your friends, because you can play with up to 4 people, well, 3, you and, well, it's 4 people total, you and 3 others. If you want to do that and you want to get it on Steam, make sure your friends get it on Steam as well. If you're on any of the Xbox family shenanigans and you want your friends to play with you and they are also on the Xbox family shenanigans, then you're pretty much good to go. It is fun single player. I was having a great time, but I also played with some friends and I also had an absolutely fantastic time. It does scale, so the enemies will take a lot more damage when you have friends with you, so keep that in mind. But it's harder to die because if somebody gets downed, you can actually rescue them and you're not down and out until one person dies. Now, if one person actually dies, you don't get to them in time, then the whole party wipes, which is an interesting concept that I don't think I've seen before. Usually it's they just get resurrected or some penalty happens or something like that. And then, you know, it's all good. So yeah, if one person dies, if you can't resurrect them in time before the timer's out, the whole party wipes and you have to start over. But anyway, as I was trying to say when I was trying to wrap it up, and I completely forgot to talk about multiplayer, if you enjoy these style games, you're going to love this game. I highly advise checking it out, and there will be a link for it to Steam down in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you like what you saw here, consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. I do Freeform Friday every week and we always cover a different game. I want to give an absolutely massive shout out and thank you to my supporters on Patreon for making this episode possible. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to join my elite crew of Patreon supporters, please check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and show your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.